Job Hunting
101.
Providing you with the tools you need in your job search. Job Hunting
101. Thank you for tuning in to the Job Hunting 101 series. Today we're going to be talking about job power. My name is Mia Taylor and I'm the Career Development Trainer at WorkForce Tampa. And today I'm joined with Christy. Hi, Christy.
Hi, how are you?
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. I'm Christy Hattersley. I'm with IQPC Exchange. We are an international events company. Here in Tampa, our office actually produces conferences exclusively for C-level executives in the Fortune 1000. So we have a number of positions that we recruit for, from salespeople to operations to marketing to production. So really a diverse set of skill sets. I've actually been in the recruitment role just a couple of months now, but I used to be a sales director who's doing my own recruitment as well. So have a bit of knowledge about the recruitment landscape, if you will.
Okay, great. Today we're going to discuss topics such as changes in the marketplace, the importance of interviewing skills, resumes, the hidden job market, and a lot more. All of these topics are aimed at giving you a boost in your job search. And so we're going to start off with changes in the employment market. Now the unemployment rate has gone down, but we want to point out that the competition is still pretty stiff out there.
Absolutely.
Okay. There are many people who maybe have taken jobs just because the jobs are there, but they're still out there looking for other jobs, and it creates, even though it looks like the job market, there isn't a lot of competition out there, there's still stiff competition out there. So we want to make sure that we go over some of the basic things that you need in today's job market to be a competitor. Okay, one of those things is interviewing skills. And so let's talk a little bit about, when it comes to an interview, what are some of the most important things that maybe you can offer our viewers?
Well, I think the first thing is really almost superficial, but come into the interview and dress professionally. Okay. Make sure that you've dressed to impress, whether that means putting on a suit, making sure your hair is brushed in the morning, making sure you've really put yourself together so that when you walk into that office, you really leave an impression on them. Don't wear flip-flops, don't wear shorts. I know it's Florida, I know it's hot. Try to suck it up and wear a suit just for that one day. So that's the first thing. So definitely appearance is super important on interviews. Second, I would say bring your resume. Always bring your resume to the interview. As the recruiter may have already read your resume, they may have talked to you about it, you may have emailed it to them. Still bring a hard copy, and bring more than one, because you may not just be meeting with that recruiter. You may be meeting with a hiring manager or another manager that's on at the company. So make sure that you're prepared. Make sure that you've actually prepared for interview questions. Know what they're going to ask, or anticipate what you think they're going to ask before you actually get there. Put yourself on the other side of the table and say, if I was interviewing myself, what would I ask me? Right. So I think that's super important. And you guys actually do some training on how to prepare for interviews, right? We
do. We offer a professional interviewing workshop where we go over a lot of those things. How you prepare for the interview. A lot of it is practice. Like you said, get in front of the mirror, think about the questions that you're going to be asked, and just practice, practice, practice. So when it comes to the actual interview, maybe you're not as nervous, you lose some of those nervousness tendencies, and you can focus on giving the potential employer what they want in the interview.
And I think even before the interview, the phone screen even comes before the interview. So a lot of times somebody will call you and say, hey, you applied for this position, look like you'd be a great fit, want to talk to you about your resume. How you come across on the phone many times determines whether you will get that interview. So I used to, when we did training on my sales teams, we always told people to practice, but tape yourself, because that's how you're going to sound on the phone. You can listen to yourself back and hear what you sound like, or call a friend and have them do a mock interview with you and have them be really honest about how you sound on the phone, because that could move you on to the next step of actually getting that interview.
Exactly. And in a couple of my workshops, I talk about that phone interview and whether or not you think that that employer can actually hear your attitude.
Yeah.
Okay. And yes, you know, your attitude is a big part in during your job search, and of course when it comes to interviewing. So we have talked about attitude, and it can also be a barrier, but it can also be a huge plus when it comes to interviewing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I think I've actually been on phone conversations where I've called a candidate, and I mean, my day starts at 8:30 in the morning. So I start my phone calls to candidates at 8:30 in the morning. If you've just woken up and you pick up the phone, know that it could be an employer on the other end.
Exactly.
So if you're sounding a little groggy, you might not want to pick up the phone. You might want to listen to the voicemail and then call back later. Which actually brings me to the next point, which is listen to your voicemail. If you're in the job market and you are looking for something, many times recruiters or at different companies will actually leave a message for you. And we're in that day and age where people they look at their phone all the time, but they don't listen to their voicemails.
Right.
Make sure you're listening to them so that you have their contact information, that you can call them back, because you may be actually missing out on opportunity. If you call somebody 3 or 4 days later and say, oh, I just didn't get the message,
maybe too late.
It may be too late by then. They may not be doing interviews anymore.
Okay. And when it comes to interviewing, a lot of the interviewing prep is prepping before the interview. The interview may take 15 minutes, 30 minutes, but you have to prepare before the interview. You have to research the company. So it's really good to know the company that you're applying to. I ask all the time in my workshops, do you research the companies? You're sending out all of these applications. Do you research them? And I have customers say yes, and one of the reasons why they say they do is so that they can be prepared when it comes to the interview. So it's extremely important to research the companies.
Yeah, one of the first questions that I ask whenever I'm on the phone with a candidate is, I know you're applying to a lot of positions. Do you actually remember applying to IQPC?
Right.
And a lot of times I get the answer, no, I don't remember. Well, it shows a level of interest in the company. If you read the position and you're interested in it, and you're interested enough to apply in the position, why do you not remember the company or anything about it? So a lot of times I'll say, okay, I understand that, because it's the nature, if you're applying to a lot of jobs, I understand that. So I'll give them a bit of an overview. But if you come into the interview after that, if I've given you an interview after that and you come in and you still don't know anything about the company, it definitely starts you off on the wrong foot.
Definitely. Another thing too is to prepare for those interview questions. We know that there are some common questions that you will probably be asked whenever you go into an interview. Do you think you can give us a couple of examples of those common interview questions?
Absolutely. So when we generally start an interview, a lot of times we'll say, what are you looking for? And a lot of times you'll get, well, anything. Well, that's not the right answer. The right answer is you want to be looking for whatever interview you're at. You want to be looking for that job. If you can't honestly say that you're not, you probably shouldn't have accepted the interview. So that's the number thing. What are you looking for? What do you want out of your next position? What kinds of skills do you want? We do ask that, what are your weaknesses and strengths? But we generally follow it up with, when you tell me your weaknesses, I generally follow up with, what are you doing to address those weaknesses?
Right.
Because if you're not showing that you have some sort of development in addressing those weaknesses, it definitely is concerning to an employer. We do ask about what your current compensation are or is. We ask questions like, how do I know that you're a determined person? Some of those cliche interview questions. I think in certain professions, though, you're going to find that the interview process is very different. And they're going to be asking different questions that are geared towards
specifics,
whatever the position is. So for instance, in our sales organization, we actually test commercial awareness in the interview. And that I'm not 100% sure that somebody can actually prepare for unless they already know the industry and know what they're getting themselves into, if you will. But if you go into an interview for marketing or production, they may be asking you questions about specific skills. What do you know about social media? What do you know about website design.
Exactly.
You know, what kind of training have you had in all of these things?
So it's important to remember, when you have an interview, you want to make sure that you're prepared for the interview. Even though, as I said, it may take a short time, the preparation takes hours to make sure that your appearance it's good. Also, that you prepare for those common questions, practice, like you said, record yourself. I think that's a great tip, to record yourself so that you can hear how you sound in the interviews.
I think also, I was pretty impressed. We had a candidate just a week or two ago, and he came into the office, and he had not only researched the company, but he had researched me.
Wow.
He had researched our sales director, and he came in, and our sales director up in New York actually used to play minor league baseball. And he's like, oh, so you went to Oklahoma State, you played. So after the interview, after all was said and done, it showed that he had actually taken enough interest to actually go on both of our LinkedIn profiles and see what we were all about. And it showed us that he actually had an interest in joining the organization. And companies like to talk to people who want to work for them.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. Okay. Well, what about the resume? Okay. So we're talking about job power, and the resume right now is really your ticket to the interview. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about the different styles of resume, because you can have chronological resumes, functional resumes, and actually a combination of the two. What are some of the main pieces of information that a job seeker should include on their resume?
I think an objective is absolutely important. It shows me that you're actually, and an objective that's actually customized to the position that you're applying for. Also looking at education. Make sure that if you have a degree, even if you have some coursework, or if you have certificates, that's actually identified on your resume.
Okay.
Also, make sure you have dates for employment. We like to just put things in chronological order so that we can tell where there might be gaps, and I'm sure there's probably a reason for those gaps. But I absolutely like to see those dates. When people don't have dates, I wonder whether they're job hoppers or what's going on here. So so all of those things I think are really important, and I think also not just the experience, but also whether you're a member of any associations, what you do outside of your professional life that might actually reflect why you'd be a good fit for the company you're working for. So that could be sports, or that could be if you were president of your class in college, which is leadership, things like that. Definitely.
What about cover letters?
I like cover letters.
Are cover letters important?
I think they are. I was recently at an Employers Institute seminar at USF, and they asked, are cover letters important? Raise your hands. And about half the room raised their hands, and about half the room didn't. So I don't know whether that's an industry-specific thing. I don't think they hurt. I think you're better off sending one than not sending one, because I think if you are making a transition in your employment, if there are gaps in your resume you want to explain, if there's certain things you want to highlight, it gives you that avenue or that ability to actually highlight them, or show that you've actually researched the company and why you think you'd make a good fit for that position.
And also, like you said, any other important details, if you're willing to relocate, those types of things, you have the opportunity to say that may not be on your resume or on an application. Okay. I want to talk about the hidden job market now. We know that we can go to different job boards like Career Builder, definitely Employ Florida, to look for jobs. But there is a hidden job market out there. Let's talk a little bit about how networking fits into that.
Absolutely, and I think that's where the hidden job market is. And you really need to put yourself, when you're branding a company wants to put itself in so many different places. So they use social media. They market directly using direct marketing tactics. They use different websites and media partners and associations. And why do they do that? It's because they can touch so many different pieces of the market and draw in clients.
Right.
And I think when you're a job seeker, it's the same mentality. It's the more places you can actually put it out there that you're actually in the market for a new position, the more successful you're going to be and the closer you're going to get to it. I think sometimes when you stick to just Career Builder and Monster, you're missing out on opportunity. And I think you're in with the rest of Career Builder and Monster as well. I mean, I put a posting up and I'll get 300 resumes. And you're one of 300 that I have to go through, and think about it. There's one person or two people that are going through these resumes to find the right candidates. So if you can follow up with a phone call, or if you can get into a networking group or apply to the job and then come visit us at the career fair or something like that, that's fine too.
Okay.
So I think I think networking is absolutely important. I think you never know where you're going to find your next position or your next job.
Okay. What about social media? I teach a social media workshop at Tampa Bay WorkForce, and a lot of customers are surprised. They're surprised that social media plays such an important part in the job search. And I always say, show of hands, who thinks that social media is essential to your job search? And not many people raise their hand. Why do you think that job seekers are not aware that social media is extremely important?
I think people associate social media with Facebook and Twitter, and some of that is mostly for family members and friends to kind of keep in touch, and for gossip and that kind of thing. It's not looked at as a professional resource. I think what they fail to understand is that there is a place for it. So if you have a LinkedIn profile, it's a professional networking site. It's a site that you can go and post your resume. It's not a Facebook where you're going to get all kinds of people asking to be your friend and posting bad pictures on your website. It's actually a site that a lot of people use. And when I was I had a couple of friends who were looking in the job market. They would actually look for people whose positions they wanted and would reach out to them on LinkedIn, send them a message and say, I noticed that you're doing this, 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 and this. I found that really interesting. I'm actually looking for something similar. How did you get there? What kinds of things did you have to do to get this position? And more often than not, they'll actually get a response back from those people, and maybe even set up an appointment to talk, and then you set up mentorships. So I think you need to know what kind of social media to use, as opposed to kind of Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. And in our workshop, we do focus mainly on LinkedIn because LinkedIn, it provides an online resume. So your resume, again, has an online presence. Also, it allows you to reach out to the people who are already doing the jobs. But most importantly, also, those companies have LinkedIn profiles so that you're able to see certain things that maybe you wouldn't see on Career Builder and even Employ Florida.
There are other websites too that have professional networking sites out there aside from LinkedIn. I don't know how popular they are. I think LinkedIn is like the number one to have, but there are other ones out there. And I think there's other resume databases aside from Career Builder and Monster that may be more targeted to your geographic area. So if you look at like Employ Florida or Job News, or some of the other smaller databases that you might want to get into, because some companies are paying for access to that to that database, and so if you're in a couple of them, you have a better chance of them coming across your resume.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit about some hiring characteristics that employers are looking for. So can you give us an idea of some things maybe employers are looking for as far as maybe hard skills?
Hard skills. So we're talking about Microsoft Office. And,
things like computers.
Software skills.
Why do you think right now having basic computer skills are important?
Oh, it's so important. I don't know that there's a company out there that does not have a component where you actually have to go online, whether it be just to do your time card or whether it be you actually have to write Word documents. I think basic computer skills, you need to know Microsoft Office. And when I say Microsoft Office, I don't just mean Word. I mean Excel, PowerPoint, Word. I think you need to have basic database skills, because so many companies, their HR departments, payroll departments, they all run on a database, essentially. So you need to have basic computer skills. Unfortunately, that's just the way the world is going. paper is going out the window and everything's becoming automated. So we look, in our company, you have to be able to do a lot of research.
Right.
And that requires being able to use Google, being able to think critically and go to different sites and use social media, use LinkedIn and things like that. So not just for your job search, but for your actual job, you need to be able to understand those things.
I know, and so I explain in my workshops that it's essential that you have basic computer skills, but it's also great that you build upon those skills as well, and you have to find where you're comfortable with your computer skills because they are being utilized in today's job market. Let's talk a little bit about soft skills. Okay, when we talk about soft skills, we're talking about building relationships, that communication with individuals, goals.
Absolutely.
A lot of times our job seekers may find that they haven't set goals as far as even just finding a job.
Yeah.
Do you think setting goals is important?
I think it's super important. And it's not just because I'm from a sales background and you have to set hard targets for yourself in order to meet them. I think if you are not setting expectations for yourself, you're going to be falling behind. You're going to lose sight of what you want to do and what you want to get out of this. In terms of soft skills, we look a lot for confidence. We look a lot for the ability to communicate, not only if you are going to be talking to a client, but with your coworkers. I mean, we look a lot for a cultural fit, meaning you can come into the office, you have the right profile to come in and actually have the right skill set, so you can actually get them, you can do your research, but you can also communicate. With your coworkers and your clients. So communication, both oral and written skills, super important. Okay.
So when we're looking at the types of soft skills that employers are looking at, they are looking at those being able to, as you said, to talk to coworkers, to be able to get along on a team. I explain a lot of times in the workshops that you don't choose who you work with.
It's true.
Okay, that's one of the things that has changed in the job market a lot. You work with a vast different people.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't choose who you get to work with, and you have to find where you're comfortable.
You do.
What about the stress that comes from looking for a job? You're out there, you may have been unemployed for several months now, and life goes on. You still have bills to pay and things like that. So the stress starts to build up when it comes to searching for a job. What kind of advice can you give?
I think if you've been looking for a job for quite a bit of time, you probably need to make some changes and you need to take a step back. Look at finding a new job as kind of a new turn in your life, a new way of reinventing yourself and starting fresh and starting new. Every time you get a new job, you get a whole new set of coworkers, which may become friends. Every time you get a job, you get a whole new skill set and you learn something new. Those first few months are all about learning. So I think if you've actually been out in the job market and you're getting frustrated, you need to take a step back and look at what you've been doing and what things you can change. And most importantly, sometimes you can't control whether an employer actually gets your resume in front of them because they may be working in a couple of different databases and maybe they just haven't gotten to it. What you can control is reaching out to them by phone, visiting them at a job fair. You can control what your resume looks like and your research into the company. You can control putting yourself in situations where you might actually be able to network and find a new job. So I think when you're in a job search, you need to focus on what you can control and leave all the stuff you can't control at the door and just put it aside.
Right, and one of those things that you can't control is your attitude.
Yes,
okay?
Absolutely.
Your attitude plays such a huge part when it comes to looking for a job, especially when it comes down to having that interview and that face-to-face. How can attitude affect your interviewing negatively or positively?
I think it absolutely, attitude is so important. I think staying positive is probably the best thing that you can do. So if you've gone through something hard in the past, spin it into a positive. So, I got laid off my last job because of downsizing. But it's afforded me the opportunity to pursue something that I really want to do.
Right.
Or my job had become stagnant and I really want to do something. So it came at the right time. And now I'm ready for a new challenge. So really taking all of those negatives, making them into positives. I think if you come into an interview, or if you're even in a phone screen and the interviewer is talking to you and says, is asking questions about your last position, you may have had a bad manager in the past, but you probably don't want to bash them because they're going to start to think, well, can you be managed? Do you have problems being managed? So saying, I was looking for a change. It wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. Now I'm moving forward. Really spinning things into positives will help you get that next step.
What other tips do you have for job seekers out there they're in the process of searching for a job? They may have lost a lot of the confidence as far as looking for a job. Some job seekers, they say, I haven't had to look for a job in 10 years, in 20 years, and it's so different now. What kind of advice do you give them?
I think you need to be persistent. I think you need to try a couple different things. I don't think that there's a magic solution that says, you know what, if you do this, 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 and this, you're going to get a job.
Right.
This is what's going to happen, because you'll find a lot of people following those steps who are still unemployed. So I think it's about being persistent. I think it's about creating a brand for yourself, creating a picture. Your resume is a picture of your past. It's what you've done, what skills you bring to the table, and what's going to make you such a successful employee. So turn yourself into a salesperson. You're selling yourself.
Exactly.
Every single time you walk into an interview, every time you're on the phone. And don't turn down opportunities to interview. Maybe it's not the right fit for a job. I'll give one example. I had a woman come into my office 2 weeks ago. She said, we actually met her at a job fair, and she had told our managing director, she said, you know what? I want to be a salesperson. I'm going to be a sponsorship salesperson. And he said, that's great, Christy, call her. So I went and I called her. And in talking with her, I realized, I said, sales is not your passion. I'm like, this is not what you want to do. And she's like, well, no, but I've done some things, and I think I'd be good at it. I've been in PR before, and I write a lot. And from the conversation, I realized that she's a writer, that she's outgoing, that she's done PR, that she's actually produced conferences before. So I brought her in for an interview, and I said to my managing director, I said, she's going to be a conference producer. And he said, why do you think that? She told me she wants to be a salesperson. And I said, in talking with her, I realized that her skill set was a better fit for this. We hadn't even posted the position yet. But because she had been ambitious enough to come in and apply for something that was outside of her realm, or outside of her comfort zone, I, as a recruiter, realized that she'd be better for something else, and we actually hired her. She's actually in our company now, and being quite successful too. So I don't think you can count out going a little bit outside of your comfort zone, because you don't know what you're going to find, and you don't know who's going to see that in you and see that potential and find a place for you.
And that brings me to, a lot of the job searching is done online now. And so a lot of job seekers are saying, I'm losing that face-to-face. And you just gave a great example of how the face-to-face really can boost your job search. So what types of things do you recommend that job seekers stop into companies or give companies a phone call, even though they're just doing those online applications?
I think it depends on the company. There are some companies that actually say, do not call, do not email, do not come on our premises, or you'll go to the front and they'll turn you away. I honestly don't think it can hurt. Any company that's seriously hiring is going to want to meet a proactive candidate. We've hired people who have walked into our office and have just displayed so much confidence in the fact that they wanted that job and they knew about our company, and we've hired them because of it. So I would say just have no fear. I mean, try it. The worst they can say is no. The worst they can say, you walk in their office, you say, excuse me, I'd like to talk with your recruiting manager, and they say, no, sorry, you can't do that.
All right. Well, thank you for that information, Christy. That's all the time that we have today. I hope that you have found this information to be helpful. Thank you, Christy, again for joining us. My name is Mia Taylor.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you again for joining us for Job Power in your Job Hunting 101 series.